Good evening, welcome back. It is Thursday, July 6, 2023. We have a few birthdays, a few events, so let's go over those really quickly. On this date in 1969, Richard Petty won the first Cup Series race at Dover, but it was then a 300-mile race. Of course, it got lengthened to 500 and then shortened to 400 later on. On this day in 1991, Bill Elliott won at Daytona. Of course, DW had a horrible crash that day that's been replayed over and over and over all over YouTube and other media platforms. Kind of the significance of this race, it was Bill Elliott's last win with the Melling team, and overall as an organization, it was the last win for the Harry Melling-owned number 9 car. On this date in 2014, Eric Almirola won at Daytona for his first career Cup Series win. Yes, it was rain shortened, but he was out front when they waved the checkered flag, and it came 30 years to the date of Richard Petty's final win in the 43 car. Excuse me. So for birthdays, there's 5 birthdays we have. All of them have cards in various sets, but I could only find cards of one of them. So, born on this date in 1914, but he passed away sadly in 1964. He was flagged as the winner of the first now Cup Series race. Mr. Glenn Dunaway. Of course, he was disqualified for having made modifications to his, I want to say the trailing arm or the suspension. It was some component, and the win, he was disqualified, and the win was given to Jim Roper. Born on this date in 1941, but he also sadly passed away in 2021. And his quote was, "I may have never won a race, but I never lost a party." And if you know who I'm talking about, Mr. Delma Cowart. Always famous for driving the Zero car, and kind of had some issues in a qualifying race in 97 where he got loose and hit Jeff Bodine, and Jeff spun out. And for lack of a better term, NASCAR just said, "Don't come back." At least that was the gist that I've heard through various stories and reading various articles. Born on this date, 1964, from South Carolina, short track ace, Mr. Randy Porter. I know he's got a card in 1996, Viper set. I looked for it, I couldn't find it. I've seen it, I know I've got one. As well as a card from 1994 for this man, born also in 1964, Mr. Joe Dan Bailey. Joe has a card in the action-packed Richard Childress insert set. I do have that set somewhere. I couldn't find it again. Just imagine the biggest creation of a mess that you can imagine. That's what I'm dealing with right now. But Joe Dan Bailey is the son of NASCAR driver H.B. Bailey, but he was on Dale Earnhardt's crew for quite some time. And our final birthday, that we're just going to kind of show you the cards that I do have of him, born on this date in 1978. Former Roush Racing developmental driver, ran some in the ARCA and Xfinity and a little bit in Cup, Mr. Todd Kluever. Not sure what Mr. Kluever's up to these days, but I remember he won, I want to say he won that Roush Racing, if you want to call it a gong show, Driver X or whatever, but he never did have a lot of success. And you see the 16 car, and a lot of these paint schemes are going to be very, very similar to what maybe Carl Edwards or Mark Martin, David Reagan, or any of his predecessors may have run. There you see he ran in the number 50 truck for a minute, the 16 Busch car, Nationwide, whatever it was called at the time. So Mr. Todd Kluever, he did flip in that ARCA race on the last lap, or one of the last laps, that Billy Venturini broke his neck in the crash, but Todd also flipped his car pretty violently in that crash. There's another look at the 06 Busch Series car, and then it looks like we got some of these snapshot oddball ones. There's a good look at the Rutella T truck that he drove. I don't know what he's up to now. Don't know if he's racing, involved with racing, or even, like so many others, gets into real estate, gets into other things. There's a nice look at the 16 Busch car. But, if anybody knows, drop it down in the comments. I think it'd be interesting to know what Mr. Kluever's up to these days. Like I said, I'm not real sure. I haven't had a chance to really do much digging and seeing what I can find, but I know a lot of other people out there probably, may know, just maybe somebody out there knows him or has seen him race recently or whatever. But, it's kind of sad to see when some of these folks do get in these competitive rides, because this was about the time that Danny O'Quinn Jr. Was coming up, David Reagan, Ricky Stenhouse, Trevor Bayne. Roush was, all the teams at that time were looking for the next Jeff Gordon, Tony Stewart, Jimmy Johnson, whoever. And sometimes you don't get that. You get sometimes a B or C level driver. Not saying that Todd was a bad driver. He just maybe came in at a bad time. So anyway, thanks again for watching. Make sure you come back tomorrow. Not sure what we're going to rip just yet. We'll have something for you like we always do. But appreciate it. And hit that like button, hit that subscribe button on your way out. And we'll see you tomorrow.